Hello guys, welcome back to another video. So this one is going to be another iPad whiteboard video because it's easier. It's easier than me standing and just writing it all out on there. It's easier for me to share my screen. So the topic of this video is going to be exactly how I've made $100,000 from sending DMs on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You get the point. Okay, literally just getting on my phone, right, like this, and sending DMs. And I know I am not joking. I've honestly made $100,000 from literally just DMs. Okay, no joke. I promise you. And I'm going to break down this video how I've done this. So the model is called appointment setting. Okay, now appointment setting is exactly how it sounds. We are setting appointments and we get paid for every appointment we book. Now the best thing about this, right, is with setting appointments, we can do it again through DMs. So you don't have to be on the phone all day. You can respond to DMs. And all we're doing is we're going to be working with people who sell a high ticket program or a coaching service or any kind of online digital service for a high ticket price like 5K and above. And these guys have a large following of people, like 100,000 followers, 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers. But they don't have enough time to speak to those leads themselves. They're too busy running the business, right? But the way they grow their business is by having appointments and closing those deals on the appointments. Okay, so if they don't have a steady flow of appointments coming through, their business will slowly die. So if they don't fix the problem of appointment flow being, consistent, their business will die. So it's a massive problem, and we can come in and take it off their hands. So I can imagine you right now. This is probably you. Okay, let me just draw a picture of you really quickly. This is you. Okay, you're probably working a 9 to 5. Or you're working a job you don't want to work, right? You're looking at getting into the online space and have no idea where to start. And unfortunately, you're probably broke. And it's fine, because I used to be as well. I used to be working in a retail job and I was scraping like $1,000 a month. Didn't have enough to get by on. You get the point, okay? You're probably stuck in your 9 to 5, thinking of ways to get out, and you've seen the models such as, drop shipping, starting an agency, Amazon FBA, crypto, flipping items online, faceless YouTube channels, Instagram theme pages. You get the point, okay? You've probably seen all of this stuff, right? But the thing is, when you're stuck in a 9 to 5 and you're very new to the online realm, you've never tried any of these models or anything similar to it, you have no skills, right? Let me just write this down. You have no skill. And also, on top of that, you have no leverage. So, with these models, a lot of them take money to start. Okay, Amazon FBA, you have to have a large amount of capital first. Same with crypto. There's no point investing in crypto if you haven't got money to invest in with. You can't get rich off a tenner. The same with starting an agency. Trust me, I've tried it. In fact, I've got an agency now. I do appointment setting, but I've got an appointment setting agency, a small scale one. Starting an agency straight off the bat with no experience is basically impossible because, again, you have no skills and no leverage. So you've probably seen all of these models and you're thinking, I just want to replace my income online. Okay, I don't care about starting a business. I don't want to do all of this confusing crypto stuff. I just want a way to replace my income online without having to go all in and quit my job. Okay, well, this is how you do it. Okay, so like I said, you have no skill and no leverage, but what you do have is time. Right, you have time and you have a phone. Now, these are going to be your two biggest weapons. If you're working a 9 to 5, don't tell me you don't have time, because you do, okay? Even if you've got other commitments, you can still find the time to do this. This model, don't care how busy you are, you can still do it, okay? Let me ask you a question. Do you respond to your friends on Instagram in the DMs? Do you message people in the day? Do you scroll social media? And you can't tell me you don't. Do you know why? Because every single person does this, okay? Especially if you're young, right? And you're already looking at ways to get out of your 9 to 5. I can almost guarantee you spend a lot of your time on your phone, on social media, talking to your friends, scrolling Instagram, right? You've got time to do that. And also you've got a phone to be able to do that. And that is all you need for this model, okay? You need a little bit of time and a phone. Because, like I said, these guys that we're going to be working with, they don't have enough time to speak to these people on their behalf. So what we'll be doing is taking it off of their hands. And I promise you, it really is just as simple as logging into their Instagram. I'll get into this in a minute. Logging into their Instagram, speaking to leads, right? People on their behalf, saying, look, we've got this program and you've got this problem. The program solves the problem you have. Are you free to book in a call? And they'll say, yes, you book the call and then you get paid, okay? So the way this works, okay, like I said, it's just sending DMs, but the way that we get into it is, number one, you have to have social media, right? And no, I'm not talking about TikTok and you have to make all of these trendy dances or videos. No, you just have an Instagram account, right? So download, I'll just put download social media as a broad statement, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to make our account optimized. And what I mean by that is we're going to make it look professional and like it's hireable is how I like to say it, okay? Now, I haven't got enough time in this video to break down exactly how to optimize your account for this. So I can make another video if you just type in the comments and let me know if you want to see it. But having an optimized account, like a professional looking account, like an intriguing looking account, right? Don't incriminate yourself with like pictures of you getting drunk with your friends. You get the point, okay? This is going to be a massive leverage point to landing these positions with these business owners because they will judge you in the first 10 seconds. So your account has to pop and has to make them stand out. Again, I can make a separate video on that, but as a blanket term, just don't look immature and have clear pictures of your face and explain in your bio how you can help people, okay? So what I mean by that is explain how you can help these business owners. Essentially, in theory, this is the favorite term that I like to say, and I've landed a position saying this, is unlock the 7 figures trapped inside their social media accounts because they're too busy to speak to the leads, right? I will come in and speak to those leads and unlock the 7 figures, and all you have to do is pay me per appointment or pay me commission on the closes that I get you, okay? So more on that later, but yeah, download social media, have an optimized account. Then what we're going to do is we're going to find influencers within the health, wealth or relationship sector. Okay, I've made that video quite recently. Okay, so health, wealth, relationships, because again, the biggest pain points are in those markets. And obviously if the biggest pain points are in those markets, that means, you know, people are going to have the largest amount of pain. And if people have the largest amount of pain, it means they're more likely to spend, okay? The bigger the problem, the bigger the pain, right? The more money you can spend, okay? The more money you can charge, sorry, okay? So we're going to find people like that. So for example, we might be wanting to work with business coaches, right? They help people scale their business. It's a big problem you're solving, okay? So we're going to find business coaches, right? We're going to find, let's call them influencers, even though they're not, all right? Let's just say it. With at least, I'd say 10K plus followers, right? Now, the reason for that is because if we don't have at least 10,000 followers, there's not going to be enough lead flow for us to work with, okay? And what I mean by that is if we don't have enough lead flow and you get paid directly from the amount of appointments that you book and you don't have that many people to speak to, then you're not going to be able to make that much money. So the more people you have to speak to, the more money you'll make. If, you know, the less people you have to speak to, the less you'll make, okay? So we need to find influencers who have at least 10K followers, because then there's going to be a large amount of volume for you to actually make money, okay? And once we found these guys, right, we are going to message them, right? We're going to reach out and pitch them about how we can help. I'm going to call it message. I'm still getting used to this iPad, guys. Sorry if it's sloppy. With pain, right? And what I mean by that is highlighting how these guys want to grow, right? These guys want to get to these big heights because these business owners, trust me, they do. They all want to scale. They all want more money. They're always wanting more, okay? We're going to highlight how they can't have that if they keep having this problem of not responding to engaged leads on their accounts. By not having the time to speak to the leads or speak to these people in their market, speak to their followers, right? By not doing that and not taking care of it, they are losing 6, maybe even 7 figures, right? There's 6 or 7 figures trapped inside their account and it's not being unlocked because they're too busy running the business, the day-to-day operations of the business, to respond to these leads, okay? So we're going to say that to them. We're going to go, look, I have a lot of time on my hands and I'm very hungry, okay? Very, very hungry for more. And what I want to do is I want to come into your business, come into your Instagram DMs or Instagram inbox and handle all of these conversations for you and unlock the 6 or 7 figures that are trapped inside your account because you're missing out right now, okay? You haven't got time, I do. I will speak to these leads on your behalf, right? And then what we're going to do, on top of that message, we're going to add some risk reversal, okay? I'm going to speak to those leads on your behalf and I will only get paid once I book them into a call with you, okay? So there's nothing for you to risk. You're getting free, you only pay me if I get an appointment on the calendar, okay? So the risk reversal is there for them. You've made it a no-brainer. It's already a no-brainer because if they don't fix the problem, they're screwed, right? They're already screwed if they don't fix the problem. But then it's a no-brainer because they only pay you if you perform. So that is hard to say no to, okay? So optimized account with someone in the health, wealth, or relationship sector. Message them and highlight the pain point, okay? The fact that they can't scale because they're too busy, right? And then add risk reversal saying that you will do it on a complete pay on results basis, which means pay per appointment or pay per sale, which I wouldn't recommend. I'll get into that in a minute. Add risk reversal, okay? And what they're going to do is they're going to be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Let's have a chat, okay? And what they'll do, if they're interested, again, I can run you through how to actually land a role from these interviews that they give you. Once that happens and they bring you on, you're going to log into their social media, right? Then you're going to speak to the leads via Instagram DMs or LinkedIn DMs or whatever. Like they'll have a personal brand, they'll have a LinkedIn, they'll have a Twitter, they'll have a Facebook. You get the point. You'll just be in their accounts managing the DMs. Okay, you're going to speak to the leads just back and forth like DMs, like you would like texting a mate. Okay, and then what you're going to do from speaking to those leads, you're going to book them into calls, right? So those that are a good fit for the program, obviously it's a little bit more complex than just speaking to the leads. I'll get into that in a minute, but we're going to discover if they'd be a good fit for our program. And if they are, you go, look, you've got this problem, we can solve it. Do you want to have a chat? Yes, I do. Let's book in a call. Okay, booked in, 50 quid. Okay, for example, like 50 quid per appointment, $50 per appointment. As soon as you book in the call, you then get paid. Right? And it really is that simple. Okay, we're just literally going to do this. Download social media, right? Find your market. So it could be health, wealth, relationships, right? And find influencers with 10K plus followers, so the lead flows there. Okay. Then we're going to reach out and message them with pain. And when I say that, we're going to do it in a personalized video format because it's going to make you stand out. Then we're going to add some risk reversal on it. So we're going to say, look, we're going to get the 6 or 7 figures out of your account. And we only want to get paid, I only want to get paid when I perform, okay? Then what's going to happen, you're going to hop on a call. You're going to land the position. You're going to log into their social media. After that, they're going to give you their logins. You're going to go in and speak to leads on their behalf. It could be in your lunch break. It could be after your 9 to 5. It could be before your 9 to 5. It could be like little 5-10 minute pockets here and there during your day. You're going to make sure they're a good fit for the program and book them into calls if they are. You're going to say, look, again, you've got this problem, we can solve it. You're free to having a chat. Again, that is so much easier to do than trying to get $2,000 out of them or $5,000 out of them, okay? Just say, look, are you free to having a 30-minute chat? Almost anyone will say yes to that, okay? If the pain's there, you say, look, are you just free to having a look at how it works, okay? Money off the table, are you free to having a chat? It's not hard to book people into appointments after saying that, okay? And then when you book the calls, you'll get paid, okay? Now, let me just run you through really quickly how the DM actually works, okay? So, like how the journey works from speaking to a lead to booking a call, okay? So what we're going to do, number one, okay, is we're going to send a message. So we'll be in their accounts. Either they'll have messaged us first, these followers or these people asking a question about the service or whatever, or what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the new daily followers tab. And then just reach out first, okay, with a video pitch. If applicable, sometimes on these offers, these guys don't want you to do it on your behalf. Sometimes they want you to act as them. If that's the case, get your offer owner to make a video pitch saying basically, look, I wondered if you're open to seeing how I can solve X problem. I've got a few ideas. Can I shoot over more information, right? So we're going to do the message. That could be either replying to a DM of someone that's already kind of pre-engaged, or reaching out first. But it's going to be a lot easier because they've come to us. Okay, if we're messaging them first, they've still come to us because they've become a follower. Okay, we only message them if they've come into our realm. So send them a message with a pitch. Then we're going to, essentially, while we're speaking to them, we're going to do what's called a discovery, right? Now, what that is we're going to discover their pain points, their problems, where they're at, who they are, their drives, their motivations, all of this stuff. Okay, just asking them questions about themselves to kind of gauge who they are as a person. So that's called discovery. Then we're going to qualify, okay? Essentially what that means, we're going to ask more questions to see, number one, how much money they're making. Sometimes you don't ask that flat out. You just say, what are you doing for work at the moment? They could say, oh, I'm an engineer. I work as an engineer at this place. And then you can say, oh, how much are you making? Or you can go on to ChatGPT and just say, what's the average earnings of this? And then you can kind of gauge it. So obviously if you're selling a high ticket program like 10 grand and someone tells you they're making 500 quid a month, probably not a good fit. So we're going to qualify and basically make sure they're a good fit for the program. So have they got this pain, right? And have they got the cash? And do they want to change now, right? If they match those, we're going to then book them into a call, right? So we'll say, okay, cool. Well, listen, mate, it's been really good chatting to you. Are you free to hop on a Zoom next week with us so we can show you how we can essentially help you solve X problem, okay? Show you how we can help you get a six pack. Show you how we can help you lose weight, okay? So book them into a call. And then once that's booked in, your job is done. You are then paid, okay? So how this looks, right? How this looks with getting paid in this kind of model, right? There's a few payment structures to understand, right? A few models for payment that you need to understand, okay? And there's some that I'd avoid and there's some that I'd aim for, but you need to be aware of this because otherwise you'll kind of get done over a little bit. So there is pay per appointment, which is hands down the best model to get onto. Actually, you can kind of have a mix of all of these, but if you're on a flat base pay per appointment and you're on 50 per appointment, ideal, because you can control the amount of appointments you book. You can't control the sales, which we'll get into in a second. So we've got pay per appointment, then we've got pay per sale, which is a scam, right? Do not do pay per sale only. Only ever do pay per sale if it's coupled with something else, okay? Like, I'll get into in a minute, but we've got a base pay. Oh, screw it, I'll do it now, okay? We've got base, it's a terrible B, base pay, and I'll do the other one too, pay per show, and then I'll break them down in a second. So base pay will be like £500 a month, like guaranteed every month. The only time I'd ever do pay per sale, right, is if it's coupled with something like base pay, okay? Because then at least you can have an idea of how much you're making. Pay per sale by itself is such a scam because we are not in control of whether the lead closes or not. We are only in control of if the lead books in or not, okay? That's all we can control. Because if we do pay per sale, we can book 100 appointments in a month, but if they get transferred to a terrible sales rep or a terrible closer, right? Someone who's taking the calls that isn't very good at sales, then we are then relying on him for our income, okay? We need to be paid for something that we can control. So pay per sale I wouldn't do unless it's coupled with pay per appointment or base pay, or there's pay per show as well. Pay per show is kind of a bit of a scam as well. We're in control of the appointments we book. We can't control whether they show up or not. That is down to the company to have a good show up process, okay? So I would honestly recommend, the only ones I'd recommend to do, okay, like I said, you can have a mix. You can have a mix. I'd recommend just starting out, if you want the most leverage, I'd say, look, just pay me per appointment. And then later on, once you've proven yourself and you've booked loads of appointments, then you can ask for a bit of commission on the sale, or you can ask for a base pay. Base pay is fine. By itself, unless it's like $2,000 a month, which it won't be, it's normally like 500 to 1,000. I wouldn't do base pay by itself, unless you're happy with that. But you have to know that you're capped at 500 or 1,000 a month if you don't have any other model. I do pay per appointment. That's really good. Pay per appointment I'd absolutely do. Okay, even by itself. Pay per sale I'd only ever do if it's coupled with pay per appointment or base pay, right? Or pay per show. by itself, I wouldn't do it, right? Base pay, I wouldn't do it by itself. I'd only do it with something else like a pay per appointment or pay per sale model. Pay per show, I wouldn't do by itself. I'd do it again with a base pay or a pay per appointment model. So you can kind of have a mix of each, but pay per sale and pay per show by themselves and base pay by themselves, you need to think like what's worth your time long term, okay? And they aren't really. Again, you can't control a lot of these. So those are the models. Now let's say, for example, let me just show you how much money you can actually make and how much that I've actually managed to do, okay? So let's say, for example, you are on an account with 50k followers, right? Got 50k loyal followers, right? That is 50,000, well, probably a bit less because you're going to have like fake accounts and people who aren't a good fit. Let's say 25 to 30,000 potential prospects that could be clients for the person you're working with. Now I can guarantee you this person doesn't have 30,000 clients, right? So they got 50,000 followers, and let's say they get 1,000 new followers a month, right? 1,000 new followers a month for you to speak to. So you've got 1,000 leads per month. 1,000 leads per month. And let's say when you speak to these leads, you only manage to convert 5% of these into appointments. ABR stands for appointment booking rate, right? So what is that? That is, I think, 50 appointments per month. And trust me, that is aiming low. Average for an inbound position like this, when you're working on someone's account with loads of followers, is roughly like 9 to 10%. So it could actually be like closer to 100 appointments a month, but let's be pessimistic here and say 50 appointments a month, right? And that is not hard to do, but like that's probably going to take you like 2-3 hours a day tops, like two hours a day to be able to do this kind of numbers, right? So 50 appointments a month, and let's say you've managed to negotiate a pay per appointment deal, right? Pay per appointment model. So $50 times 50 appointments, right? That equals, the hell? Right, sorry, I'm still learning this this iPad, guys. Right, that is $2,500 just by itself, okay? $2,500 for about 2 hours a day of work, right? You can do that on top of your 9 to 5. So $2,500, let's say at your job you're making another $2,500, you're making 5k a month, okay? Now that is just doing it alongside your 9 to 5, 2 hours a day. If you did it full time, you could have more positions, paying more than 50 per appointment, with more leads, booking more appointments every single month, with a better payment structure, okay? So just doing that alongside your 9 to 5, you can easily make an extra 2 to 3 grand a month. Now, let's say, for example, you still want to do it alongside your 9 to 5, you don't want to quit yet and go all in, but you want just a really good position to make as much money as possible, right? Let's say, for example, you've done a 50 per appointment deal, and let's say you're still only booking 50 appointments a month, so you're on 2,500, but let's say you're on pay per appointment, but you're also on pay per sale, okay? So you've got appointment plus sale. And let's say with the sale, you are paid 5% commissions. And let's say the ticket price is 5k, okay? So, what's that? $250, right? So you're paid $250 per close. Now, you book 50 appointments a month. Let's say they've got a terrible conversion rate, and they only close 20%. So they only got 20% sales closing rate, okay, which is what SCR stands for. So let's say 20% of your appointments, right, that is 10 appointments that you have per month close, okay? So let's say 10 close at 5k. What's that? That is another $2,500. So if you just manage to get a 5% commission deal on top of the appointment, and that is not hard to negotiate, especially when you've proven yourself. Maybe you can't do this straight away as a complete beginner, but once you've got a little bit of leverage, right? Once you start off on maybe a pay per appointment model, you start off that way. You can then leverage that to get a pay per commission, right? Pay per sale. 5% is more than fair, right? Let's say you manage to do that. You've got $2,500 a month coming in, right? Just from booking the appointments alone. And then with the closes that they get, you get another $2,500. That's 5k. And let's say at your job, you're making 3k a month. Again, this would only take you 2-3 hours a day tops to do. So you've got 5k coming in on the side, and then your job as well, another 3k. That's 8k a month, right? And that is, I think it's just under 100 grand a year. And that is honestly how easy it is to get into this model, right? Just find out. We're going to find people who need the help. And guess what? All of these guys that have big followers and a big high ticket program need appointment setters. And being an appointment setter is the lowest barrier to entry, because I promise you, it really is just, are you free for a chat? Yes, I am. Booked, right? It's not rocket science, okay? And these guys are hiring setters, and I can promise you this. And do you know why I know this? Do you know why I know how it's so easy and you don't need any experience? You know how I know this? It's because I did this when I was working in a retail job with no experience, a crippling introvert, couldn't look at people in the eye, and I still managed to land a position that paid me triple my job wage, and I quit that job a month later. And the reason why they hired me is because these guys, they know that it's not rocket science to book appointments. So all they need from you is character traits to show that you're coachable, persistent, and disciplined, because they can mold you and train you up to their standards, which won't take very long because it's not a hard job to do. Compared to my last video, being a closer, you need experience. Being an appointment setter, you don't. It's just responding to DMs and saying, are you free for a chat? Yes, I am. And honestly, it sounds ridiculous, but I promise you, because I've done it myself, right? This has changed my life and got me out of that job. You can easily make 5k a month from doing this, right? Now, that is just on one position on a good payment structure. You could quit your job, work for 3 or 4 people, and I reckon you could take it past 10k a month. Okay. Now, you'd be on your phone all the time doing that. Okay. But if you just want like a decent life, right? You want to make a decent bit of money, decent life, still freedom, travel the world whenever you want to, like I do, work for 1 to 2 people and and quit your job, right? And you can make 5k a month plus 5 to 7k a month, right? Dollars. Pretty easily. Okay. So yeah, that's it, guys. That is exactly how I've made just over 100 grand with this model. I've done exactly what I've just shown you there, and I still do it to this day. So saying that, right, I still know everything about this model because I still do it every day. If you are open to learning how to do this properly, right, you want me to hold your hand personally and help you get a position like this and making this kind of money in record speeds and avoid all of the mistakes that I made when I first started and that every other appointment setter makes. If you want to learn exactly how to do that and quit your dead-end job that I know you hate working, there's going to be a link down below in the description to book a call with me. I'll run you through exactly how I can help you do the exact same thing. Now, if you don't want to be sold to, don't book the call, because full transparency, it is a sales call. But if you're serious about making this work, right, which I can tell you probably are if you're watching this video, if you're serious about making this work, book that call down below and I'll show you how to do it.